Hello there, welcome back to the channel. This is Nerd.World Films and another Nerd Talks on, yet again, another old horror movie, because I'm old and I like old horror movies. This one from 1993, the movie Ticks. Now you may or may not have heard of this movie. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume you have, because this channel's not very big, and the only reason I can think of anyone would be drawn to this one because they already know it, and I really hope you do, because this film is fantastic B-movie, low-budget horror at its finest, and has a 90s cast list also somewhat of its finest, at least in my humble opinion. Before we get started, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Try and help it grow. And also the shameless self-promotion incoming, just warning you, this is one of multiple channels I have that are listed in the description box below. My other channel, that is Nerd.World Empire, is very similar to this one, but it's more focused on television. So if you like this, you may like that. Before we get started, as well, there are other channels that are not so closely linked. A couple on history and one on crime. Again, all listed down below. There's a shameless self-promotion out of the way. Now, Ticks. Ticks is, as I said, it's a B-movie with a somewhat good cast. You've got Rosalind Allen of things like Sequest fame, very 90s. You've got Seth Bloody Green of just ginger short person fame. I mean, he was in Buffy. Seth Green's awesome. No, seriously. He voices many characters in Family Guy as well as much other work. He's been in numerous other comedy movies. He's predominantly a comedy actor, which kind of suits this movie, as it is something of a horror comedy, but it does lean more towards the horror. I think some of the comedy elements are more drawn from the fact that some of the cast are principally comedy actors, and quite frankly the film's a little laughable. You've also got other sort of who's who faces of ooh, it's that guy, Clint Howard, famed when being a child actor when he was younger, appearing in an episode of Star Trek, one of my favourite franchises, where he appeared as a sort of little man-child from the First Federation. Got to hold hands with Captain Kirk himself. I'm very jealous. And more recently, he's appeared in an episode of Star Trek Discovery, playing an Orion. You've also got Rance Howard, as I understand it. I tried to find out. I don't believe they're related, although he is related to Ron Howard. They may be related, but I couldn't find it. Let me know in the comments below if they are, and I'm just an idiot. Feel free to call me an idiot. Just comment. Helps the video grow. Anyway, you've also got other people, and the person who stands out to me in this, and of course Seth Green's in everything, he's great, but an actor who I don't see as often as I think I would like to see him, of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fame, not Will Smith, but Alfonso Ribeiro, back from the heydays of Fresh Prince. I believe he would have made this just before he would have started making Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and actually he plays a role in this that's somewhat antithetical to the role he plays in Fresh Prince, where instead of being like a dorky, like, come on, Carlton, he really shines in this movie because he actually plays a hard ass with his switchblade, and he's almost, I wanted to say Will Smith sort of inflections, but I don't think that's where he was getting it from. He was just kind of trying to be a little bit more gangster. Doesn't come across great, but it is really funny. It's one of those elements where I think the film's not intentionally being funny, but is kind of ending up there anyway. It's dancing down the road of humor. And that's the basic cast. Now the basic story of this film being well, it's not even 80s, it's 90s horror movie, horror B-movie. Now I used to have a belief back when I was a film student so many years ago, and horror was always my favourite. There seemed to be a heyday of horror movies. It seemed to start around 1978 and ended around 1993 with movies like Ticks, like Return of the Living Dead Part 3, things like that. And after them, films seemed to get softer. They tended to get a little bit more commercially appealing, and horror was believed to be a dead genre up until things like Scream would revitalise it a number of years later, and people just stopped putting effort in after 1993, and even up to 1993, from say about 1990 onwards, there was a weakening generally of the genre. This film is not one example of that. It is, of course, a B-movie. It is low budget. The effects are painful. The ticks in the film kind of look like robot spiders. But all the same, it still manages to be enjoyable. I've also just realised, unrelated to this movie, that I have a small air freshener kind of thing blazing away next to me. I don't know if you can hear it, but if there is a weird little hum, it's that. And I don't want to record all this again. So, it's that, if you can hear it. And if you couldn't hear it before, I'm sorry for pointing it out. Anyway, where was I? The story. The story is a group of troubled youths from various different walks of life in early 90s America get taken away by Rosalind Allen into the woods for some fun. And basically she's trying to rid them of bad habits, make them integrate more into society, make them less troubled. It was basically a youth camp, and they go out to a retreat in the woods, away from technology, away from bad influences, in an effort to sort of detox them on life. Little does she know that Clint fucking Howard is out there growing a load of weird stuff, drugs of some kind, in the forest, which ticks, which are abundant out in the wilderness, start to kind of mutate from, because of course it's that kind of a movie, and they go from harmless little tiny things like this to gigantic big monstrous bloodsuckers like this, and they end up chowing down on the campers, as you can imagine. First of all, they get criminals and they get other people out in the woods. You get a fantastically gory and brutal death of Clint Howard with his face pulsating and everything. It is grotesque and beautiful, and props to the makeup artist for doing it, because everything in this film is practical, even the terrible looking ticks. But when they get a dog, they take it to a vet, like, what the hell happened to my dog? That's Alfonso Ribeiro's dog. And they find a gigantic tick attached to it, and they go back out into the woods, eventually realize that these things are everywhere, and they've been out there multiplying like crazy, and they're now descending down on the cabin in the woods, pun intended, where these people are now holed up trying to defeat them. And I'm going to, despite this, I've been called out for spoilers a lot recently, so as much as I'm telling you the story, I ain't gonna tell you how it goes. There are some beautiful deaths in this movie, and there are some great special effects, all practical. There's no CGI in this motherfucker whatsoever, at least not I can remember or spotted. If they do, it's minimal, and I doubt there's any, because they probably didn't have the budget. Overall, it's very enjoyable, it's fun to watch, it's funny, but I don't know if it's meant to be, but it is, so fuck it, it is, it's enjoyable, and I recommend it. And I'm going to score this movie now, because I'm going to jump to the end of my video so I don't start giving away how it ends and who dies and how they die, because I don't want to do that. I want to leave it up to you to experience this movie. You can get it on DVD. I don't know if it's on any streaming services, but you can probably get it off Music Magpie for a couple of quid, or a few dollars maybe, I don't know, wherever you are in the world. It's probably not expensive, but it is well worth a watch, just to see Alfonso Ribeiro, Seth Green, and all these other people kind of just together in this very 90s, very, very stupid, but very fun horror comedy. And I'm going to score it a lovely 5 out of 6. And the reason it gets only a 5 out of 6 is because I feel like it, and because I can, and because it does suffer in, not being an overly complicated movie. It's not thought-provoking, but you don't really need it to be. It is a film to enjoy, watch, and not really think about, and just laugh along at the stupidity of it. It doesn't have to be more than what it is, people. It doesn't need a message, it doesn't need to be preaching anything at you, and it doesn't need to be clever. But what it does need to be is enjoyable, and this film is enjoyable, and I would recommend it. Again, 5 out of 6. It's not a bad score in my scoring system, but score it yourselves. Don't listen to me. Go watch it, go enjoy it, go hate it, and then come back and tell me what you thought about it. And also check out my other channels that are listed in the description below. And with that said, this video is over. I just want to take this moment to thank you for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, please check out my social links in the description box below to Instagram and Twitter and others, and also is down there a link to my Patreon page where you can support this channel and the others as I try to grow this franchise and do this more regularly. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and bye bye.